Let's think about people who represent their jobs and their positions well. Let's start with someone like a doctor. If a doctor of your child were to walk in wearing a Metallica shirt with purple hair and tattoos up to their neck and big old huge like zero gauge holes in their ears, are you thinking the same thing along that I'm thinking, that they're not perhaps representing their job as a doctor as well as they could? Not taking it seriously, perhaps? I might second guess coming back, even if they were the very best doctor in the world. If there was House MD, for example. He was entertaining on a TV show, but is that the kind of person you want representing your company? Especially if you're a doctor. Not the best bedside manner. Let's look at another job. Let's say attorney or elected official. They were the same exact thing. In the movie My Cousin Vinny, for example, since we're just going to throw out another episode of entertainment to think about, he wasn't taken seriously by the judge, even though he was representing his nephew on a legal matter. He was not taken seriously until he came in suits. Then he was playing the role, he was taking the court seriously, and he no longer was in contempt of court. Same kind of thing could be considered like Steve Jobs was when he did his presentations to Apple regarding Apple products to the masses. People always looked at him as kind of a cool, down-to-earth guy who was just kind of talking to you like a friend next door. He represented his company not just because of his knowledge, but because of his demeanor. He wasn't trying to be overly formal. He wasn't trying to say, this is the very best thing in the entire world. You must buy this. And, here's your discount. He's not the guy that's slamming his hand on a car and saying, you buy this car, look out, slam. He's not that guy. He was more cool, laid back, talking about what his thoughts are about technology and what he wanted, and then how he was going to bring that to you and all the features that his products would have. So think about these professionals. Now, let's talk now about representation of the sound department. In order to play the role of boom operator, you have to play the role as a representative of the sound department on set and everything that entails. You are the face of the department. You are on the front lines next to actors, interfacing with the director, the first AD, all the ADs basically, with PAs, with the key grip, with the DP, with camera operators, basically everybody on set you could have interact with. And when you are doing this, you want to represent yourself in a professional manner. Now, I could say set etiquette, but I'm going to save that for our next video. In this video, I'm going to basically talk about representing yourself well on behalf of the sound department. Your sound mixer is basically your boss. And when the sound mixer puts you out there, they expect you to handle not only yourself appropriately, but they expect you to act with the sound department's best of interests. I've worked on some sound departments where the sound mixer is in my ear constantly dictating what should happen. And as much as I hate to admit it, the first thing that happens is I just basically say, okay, fine, you want to be a dictator? Then I will shut down and just let you call the shots. I'm not going to be at my 100% because anything I say may be wrong to this mixer. Or if I don't handle it by saying exactly what that mixer wants me to say, they could say, no, that's not how you're supposed to say it. Well, personally, my methods work great for me. And not everybody can say and handle things the exact same way, and people get their point across differently. Now, if a mixer trusts me, like some mixers I've worked with, quite a few of them actually, most mixers I should say, trust me on set. Now, my demeanor may be a little bit differently than yours. My approach may be different. As a matter of fact, my personal thing is that I come from a martial art background where we always said sir and ma'am. So I'm always on set, and I always, whenever I'm speaking formally to someone, I always say sir and ma'am. And as a matter of fact, some people are like, don't say that to me. It makes me feel old. My dad was a sir, that kind of thing. But, it's just something that's embedded in me. If I'm being more casual, usually I'll say dude or something like that. I'll say, yeah, dude, how's it going? But that's just how I present myself. But, you are your own person. Don't try to imitate me. Please don't imitate me. I tell my kids that all the time. Don't be like daddy. Be like mommy. Don't be like daddy. Of course, I have 3 girls, though. be like mommy. But basically what I'm saying here is when you're representing yourself on the sound department, you're representing your boss as well and their needs. So you have to understand what those needs are. We'll cover that in another video as well. But you have to represent those needs and concerns on set. Now, if a sound mixer, if it's important for them to have every bit of the dialogue, including the off-camera dialogue on mic, and someone on set, like for example, the first AD is not going to give you that, they're like, no, why? You don't need to get that. I don't need to have the actor there or whatever else. I don't need to. You have to go with that. And the mixer is going to have to understand if they do not want to bring in an actor because they have to do a wardrobe change to get ready for the next scene, that shouldn't be a big issue. But what would be a big issue is if you're trying to get all the off-camera dialogue and an actor does not want to give it their 100% because they're not on camera. Some actors are that way. They only want to give 100% of their performance when they are on camera. If that's the case, and you still have to do your job, you still have to boom them on when they're off camera. But the actors may not like that. They may say, why are you booming me? Well, if that's the case, you can't throw your mixer under the bus because my boss tells me I have to. What you can say is, it's best for post. Or, we always do that. It's something we always do to give options. You never know what it's going to be used for. Now, they may say, well, I don't want it to be used. I understand completely. But, and most likely they won't because they're going to use your on camera. Well, can't you not do it? You might talk to your mixer at that point because you don't want to push an actor. But, of course, that's part of representing the department. You do not want to force yourself upon somebody, and you definitely need to pick your battles. Because as a sound department person, you have to have a good working relationship with the cast and crew. Now, the cast members, some of them can be a little interesting to mess with because people consider the sound department to be just a department that automatically works. They don't need to think about the sound department. It's just going to be there. It's just going to automatically work. They don't need to think about it until it doesn't work. As soon as there is a problem and suddenly someone's like, I'm not hearing anything in my headphones. Are these connected? Yeah, they're connected. But maybe the transmitter's not on or something. Who knows? You can't throw your department under the bus. You have to represent your department well and say, yes, sir, we're on it. But hopefully that won't even be an issue. But my point here is you have to represent well. You can't say, my mixer, he's out of his mind. He did something. Well, think customer service. If you call up a company and you talk to someone who says, and let's say like, for example, in one of my past lives, I worked at a big, huge internet service provider. And I used to get calls where people would be screaming, my DSL isn't working. If I were to say, let me go back through your notes here. Oh yeah, your previous technician that told you to do that was an idiot. That doesn't exactly represent the company well because it says that the company hired an idiot. So what I would say from a customer service approach is, oh, I see what they were doing, but I don't think they fully had a grasp of exactly what the issue is. But I'm looking at it. I'm going to, go about doing this a little bit differently. Or I see where they were going with this. I'm going to try a different approach. And I think we'll end up successful here. Something along those lines where you don't say, oh, geez, this person was out of their mind. Now, I've had supervisors before who have disagreed with me on something and said, yeah, he shouldn't have done that. I'm like, it's not like I was being rude or anything like that. It was just that I had a different approach towards something. It was basically setting a static IP address versus a dynamic IP address, if you're really curious as to what it was. And my supervisor didn't think I should do that. But of course, the supervisor was a supervisor, not a technician, and I was doing my job correctly. But I couldn't exactly say, yeah, you're an idiot because you just messed him up. Which he did. And then he ended up having to send it to another technician who ended up doing the same exact thing that I did. So, yeah, regardless. There was your tangent. But think customer service skills. When you're talking to someone, you have to talk professionally. You have to handle yourself professionally. You don't normally, if you're going to ask somebody for something, like you want an additional take because you didn't get it for some reason. Maybe it's something like the mixer locked up. You could always say, I had a technical. If they say, what was it? And they say, recorder malfunction. Or if you don't want to go there, you could just say it was something with the recorder. We definitely need another one. And I've been on set before where the mixer, or the recorder rather, has completely locked up, and it makes a high pitched sound, and the whole thing restarts itself. When that happens, of course, in the middle of a take, I can't say cut, because if I do, there's only a few people on set that are allowed to say cut. And if I do, then I am burning a lot of bridges, because I'm walking into someone else's job. I'm not allowed to say cut. Only people like directors and ADs can say cut. Anyone else that says it, and it's like, okay, you're not supposed to. You shouldn't be doing that. But if there is an issue with the sound department and I am booming, for example, some actors are going to say, well, I don't want to spin my entire performance and blow my entire performance if there's going to be an issue and it's not going to be recorded properly. So if I've run into a situation where we suddenly lose our recording, instead of just continuing to hold my arms over my head and go with it, I will suddenly turn my head and look at an AD or who is most likely in the room, and I'll shake my head and I'll lower the boom and just be like, and that's my cue to them, and they're going to look at me like, is there an issue? And I'll be, and then they'll say, okay, I'm sorry. Is there a problem here? Yeah, sorry, we have to stop. We should stop. There's an issue. We have an issue. And they're most likely, if I do that, because I'm in the sound department, if it was camera, they'd say, well, what's the issue? And you could just say, a technical. Sound department people have to have a better reason. I would have to say, recorder locked up. We were going to lose this take, and I didn't think you'd want to spin the actor's performance. But I mean, that's, of course, you all have your own different approaches. Think customer service, think you. What I used to say when I was in management was there's ABCs. Attitude, behavior, and characteristics. Now, I could correct behavior, but I can't do anything about attitude or the characteristics that make you who you are. If you have a bad attitude, there's nothing I can do to correct that. That's just who you are. If you have a weird mannerism to you, that's who you are too. That's part of your characteristics that make you you. But if you're not behaving properly, if you're not handling yourself properly, if your performance just needs a tweak, I can correct that behavior. Now, think of yourself. I can only tell you words to motivate you and to make you think certain things. And the biggest thing I can tell you is when you think about your behavior, when you're handling yourself on set, think about customer service. If, for example, you go on set and you treat people as if they are a customer of yours, maybe not like to the T-Mobile extent of, yes, sir, I certainly understand where you're coming from. I sympathize with you. Then I empathize with you. I would certainly hate that if that happened to me. And then the third part, I'm going to help you solve it. Personally, that approach drives me nuts, because you don't need to sympathize, empathize, and then tell me you're going to fix the problem. Just fix it. When it comes down to doing this approach on set, when I am saying be professional, yet represent well, what I am basically saying is when you talk and address somebody, try to be respectful of their time. For example, if you are concerned about overlaps, like two actors are overlapping in their dialogue, who would you address about that? Most likely you would make the director directly available about that. If you mention to the first AD, they're going to say, I mean, there's some circumstances when you would go to the first AD first, but usually on something like that, I would go to the director, because they're the person that's going to be in the edit. They're the person that's going to be interacting with the talent. And they may say, but I like the overlaps. But you can at least make them aware of it. If you tell the first AD say, oh yeah, that's the director thing. I got to go talk to the director about that. Sometimes the show is the kind of show where you would go to the first AD. It really depends on the show, and you have to feel it out. And of course, that comes with experience. But the biggest thing here, the biggest point I'm trying to make here, and I know I'm taking tangents all over the place, is from a professional point of view, you want to represent yourself and your department well. And that means being respectful of others' times. That means treating others with respect. If you are too short and aggressive and whatever else, people don't have to do anything for you. As a matter of fact, the sound department is one that if you were just doing a radio show, you could do your job by yourself perfectly. But you are in a picture world. Therefore, you have stepped into their world. You are on the DP set until they call roll sound, and then the actors and their performance becomes that of the director. But that set belongs to the first AD who's running it and the DP who is lighting it. You have to be respectful of that. You cannot raise your voice at either one of them. A DP will make your life a living hell as a boom operator by doing hard front lights, by putting stands of things right in your way and saying, no, you can't be there. I need to have this. A first AD, you piss them off and they could not give you anything you need. If you try to address a noise or something like that, I'm not concerned with that. Just sit down, just come back in here and get ready to roll. I don't know. We're not going to address that. No, you can send your utility out for that. But my utility is on set booming. Well, you need to send them out there. If it's a concern of yours, you need to do it. I'm not going to help you with it. Yeah, you don't want to piss these people off. First ADs, DPs, key grips, electricians, wardrobe people. I mean, every single department on set we interact with, props, every one of them. And in order to properly represent yourself and to work well with these other departments, you have to remember manners. Manners go a long way. Good manners especially. I find that if I am polite to someone and nice to someone, as a general rule, but not always, people don't want to be mean to the nice guy. They don't want to just, gripe and moan and whatever else at them. They want to be nice in return. Even if they can't accommodate you, most likely they're going to feel bad about not being able to help you. Man, I'd help you out if I could. I just can't in this circumstance. I'd help you if I could. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's going to be a boom reflection issue, and you just have to have a reflection of the actor in that big mirror with all the headroom in the world, and there's nothing you can do about it. And you can't get a boom over there because that reflection is key to the show. And you have to have a reflection of the world behind them, or whatever the case may be. They'll help you if they can. But if you aggressively say, no, you got to help me with this. I can't do this. I don't have to do anything. You can't tell me I need to help you. You're going to start stepping on their toes and pushing them the wrong way. They're not going to help you. They're not going to want to have anything to do with you. Remember your manners. Be respectful. And again, to my point earlier, be respectful of their time. Don't spend 15 seconds explaining something that you can ask in one sentence. Instead of going to them and saying, hey, so I noticed there's some noises in the background. Can we have a PA or somebody go back there and listen for some noises, and maybe during a take try to lock it up or something? Because I was hearing some noise back there and I think it was coming from back there, but I'm not 100% sure. And it's if I could have some help from the PA. You're talking too much. You're going to drive them nuts. The first AD is going to be like, wait a minute, what do you need from me? As opposed to saying, hey, we heard a noise back there. Could we just have somebody peruse it and make sure that it's locked up and everything? A lot easier. It's more respectful of their time. First ADs are busy people. They're constantly on their cell phones looking at something, doing something. Or they're constantly looking at their watches and they are trying to run the set. They're constantly addressing an issue. They're maybe directing background because the second is overwhelmed. They're perhaps telling talent to do a little bit here or there. Instead of talking and saying, hey, between this line and this line, there was an issue with the overlap and whatever else, just say, hey, can we just remind the actors about overlapping? Simple as that. That would be if you're talking to the first AD directly. Now, also keep in mind that when you are talking to these people and you're talking to them professionally, you have to constantly remind yourself to keep your cool in some circumstances. If at the beginning of the day, things go slow, and as the day progresses, it gets a little crazier, especially if you're starting to lose the light or something like that. You have to be respectful of their time, especially in those circumstances. They're going to be shorter with you at the end of the day. And if that's the case, you cannot push them. You can't just troll them or have fun with them or whatever else. You have to work with these people. You have to be respectful of them and their time and the circumstances that they're in. Try to be aware of that. Don't be pushy on them. Because if you are, they're not going to work with you. They're not going to have any They're not going to care about you and your job and your concerns. And keep this in mind. ADs and PAs are your allies. When we roll, they will lock up a door to make sure no one walks in or out. They will be the person that contacts locations for you or calls in someone else because you're not on a walkie. They're the person that's going to get things quiet when we roll. These people are your friends. Especially, it's so easy for people on set to mistreat PAs or to gripe or yell at them. Don't do that. It's not respectful. It does not represent well on you. And also keep in mind that PA is one day going to be a first AD or a producer or a UPM or something. And they'll remember if you mistreated them when they were a PA. Being a PA is a tough job. It doesn't pay hardly anything. You are mistreated by people. You might be in the hot summer weather in the middle of a field being, trying to swat away mosquitoes. There's no one bringing you water. You're miserable out there, but you have to lock up an intersection. That's your job. You got to do it. And when I say lock up an intersection, I don't mean standing out in the middle of traffic and doing ITC. I mean, you might be locking up an intersection, like, for example, a walkway. People walking down a long walkway, and people just can't walk down there because they would be walking into the shot, because the camera's looking that way. That's what I mean. Whatever the case may be. But I guess my point here is that when you are on set, think respect. Now, if you have not watched the video I did on the Big Four, you need to also watch that one, because there are 4 people on set that need to be very tight with each other: the camera operator, the first AC, the dolly grip, and the boom operator. And I'll just say it right there. Watch the Big Four video, and I'll just leave it at that. There's a lot of good information in there. The Big Four are people that you want to definitely stay on the good side of. And this day and age, there's not just the Big Four, because there are multiple camera teams. And every single camera team brings in 3 more people that are going to be there on set. Now, of course, they bring in first AC, second AC, dolly grip, usually, camera operator, whatever the case may be. That's already 4. Sometimes there's another assistant they need for whatever reason, digital loader, utility, whatever they want to call it. Sometimes a camera PA if there's multiple cameras. Anyway, the people I refer to as the Big Four are the people you want to definitely interact well with and stay on their best side. It is very important. When it comes to representing well and respect, it also means don't tell other people what to do. Respect their crafts. They are a professional that represents their department and the best needs of the department. Now, yes, your sound. People are going to say, well, can't you just boom from right there? Maybe, maybe not. Well, I have actually told people I can't because of the lighting. I've had DPs try to tell me, well, can't you boom from the other side? I can't, because then I'd be in your main light. And then they'd be like, oh, yeah, you would be. Or they'd say, well, can't you boom from right there? No, because I'll be in the reflection. What if you're on a ladder? It's the microphone that's in the reflection. It'd be, the microphone can't be there. That's what I'm trying to address. Well, can you be higher? Can't you friggin' zoom in? Can't you just change to a tighter lens? Whatever the case may be, it's the same exact thing as them telling me to do my job, but can I take that approach? No, I can't, because I'm sound. And sound does not do that. Now, that doesn't mean don't be assertive, because you still have a job to do as well. Your boss, for example, is someone who your sound makes sure you have to represent them and their technical specs and what they find to be important on set. You have to represent them and their quality standards correctly. Now, that does mean that sometimes you may say, I really can't do that. No, or I'll need to talk to my mixer about that, but I don't think that's something we can do. And that would mainly be if there's a noise or something like that people say, well, can we just leave that fan on during a take? Or it's so hot. If we were to kill that heater, if it's so cold, if we were to kill that heater and then wheel it off set, we're losing time. I understand. But this is the soundtrack. This is the actor. That's making the difference between usable dialogue and not usable dialogue. I mean, and I don't want to just, because there's a heating source on set going like that the whole time, I don't want to have an actor go to ADR for it. when all you have to do is kill it. Well, can we kill it and leave it on set? No, because then it goes as it cools down, all the metal cools and it starts to make creaking noises. Well, what if it doesn't? Well, what if it blows a take because it starts in the middle of the take? You can't wheel it away because we'd hear the wheeling away noise. Anyway, you have to represent well, and you have to be assertive but yet polite about it. Because that's a very critical thing. You have to, within yourself and your own personal, the way you represent and the way you do things, you have to represent your department well. And that means everything I've said and even more. If let's go back to the crew members. Let's say that you have an issue with the light and you need to have it cut. You do not want to say, hey, can I get this particular thing? Can I get a meat axe to come in here and just chop this light? You might start off on a show more broad than that before you just go and tell someone what you need. Because a lot of the times there is a lighting scheme that they have to follow. The gaffer is putting out lights according to the design of the lights set forth by the DP. And the key grip will, of course, work with the DP and the gaffer to make sure that all the lights are shaped and properly diffused. Now, if you were to go in there and say, perhaps you could help me, I'm seeing my boom back there. Or could you help me out a little bit? I'm seeing my boom back there. Might be a better way. They would look at it and say, yeah, throw it out there. You throw it out there and they see it back on the back wall. Yeah, let's bring in a cutter. Sometimes it's the right thing. Sometimes it's not the right thing. Sometimes they will point at a light, and it's amazing to me. Sometimes I've talked to people on set, and they'll look at a light, and I know exactly which light it is because it's a harder source, and they'll look at the wrong light. And they'll say, yeah, it's right there. I just need to cut that one off. I'm thinking, that's not the right one. Well, how do I say that correctly when they are not pointing at the right light? I'll say, oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was this one right here. That could be stepping on their toes a little bit. You can, what I'll usually do is I'll go straight into the light source with the microphone. Or not the light source, but I'll go straight into the shadow with my microphone and start to pull back in line with it so the shadow stays in the same place. And I'll say, all right, it's going in this line. So is that not it right there? I'm sorry. I thought it was that one. I'm sorry. Now they may cut that light, or you could be wrong. I mean, you are not, the lighting genius of that set, but you might be right. You might be wrong, but, be respectful about it. And when you are addressing somebody, you cannot just say, I need this. They're going to say, well, I don't need to get that for you. They could tell you, we're lighting right now. Can you, talk to me later? Or, dude, we are nowhere near being ready just yet. Talk to a DP, for example, too early about diffusion. They're going to say, I'm not done lighting yet. However, when you've been on a show a little bit longer and you watch the rehearsal and you have a concern about that, you can say really, really early, I know you haven't even started yet, but are you using these overhead can lights? And they may say, no, I can kill those for you. Okay, great, thank you. And then you walk away. But you might also ask them and they say, yeah, I need them. I really need them. Why is it going to be a problem for you? It is concerning because they're hard. They're hard lights, and I'm seeing them all over the place, and there's like cans all over the place. But I understand if you need them. But if there's a way to help me out, look like one or two of them if they're an issue. Yeah. I'll help you out with that. No worries. That's at least sometimes getting in there. If you come in there last minute, if like they do rehearsal, as soon as that happens, you walk to Crafty and you're sitting there chilling and talking to people. And then all of a sudden they say, okay, last looks. And you go to set and you say, these can lights, these are an issue. By then they're needing them for the scene. I need this light. Why didn't you? If you mentioned it before, maybe I could have done something. I can't do something about it now. Well, now you're stuck with it. And your mixer is going to say, why didn't you get this addressed? Well, you can't just start throwing shadows all over the place and saying, well, he did this to me. I mean, that's not exactly appropriate. Plus, you throw the DP under the bus by saying the wrong thing to the mixer. The mixer could charge out there on set to try to get something addressed, and then you are in the middle because the DP is like, that's not what he said. That's not what happened. Of course, not every mixer is different, but in a general sense, that's what it is. When you have an issue with something on set, though, my point here is address it in the most respectful ways possible and ask for help. Say, I'm seeing my shadow back there. Can you maybe give me some help with this? So this, of course, is interacting with other departments, working and representing the sound department well. The big takeaways here are be respectful, be polite. Of course, that's part of being respectful. Don't just be off set until the last second. Be on set if you're a boom operator, because you want to, if they start to come in with something, they would much rather address it right then and there, as opposed to having to bring a ladder back in to fix something because you then need a snoot around a light. When they start to set a light, as soon as that happens and you see that that's a source 4 and it's kind of sourcey and it's spilling off, you can say, hey, would you do me a favor and black wrap that? I'm seeing a little something. I'm seeing a little, something off the bottom of that. Yeah, absolutely. While they're up there, they have no problem doing it. They can do that then. If you try to get them to do it after the fact, after they've already taken that ladder away, they're going to say, you want us to come back in and do, why were you before? Where were you, when we were lighting? But of course, they could also have a big lighting setup and they may have to broom out a whole bunch of furniture. And they may say, can you leave the set for a little bit? If you say, I can't do that, that's not being a team member. That's not working on the same side as everybody else. You're just going to be in the way. Absolutely step off, give them the room that they need. If a first AC as a boom operator tells you, because it's a very, very slow move in and you're like this, and their focal length, they're at a f2 2.8, and it's or even a 1.4. Let's say that it's wide open. That means that there's like a focal plane like that, razor thin, that it's like the first AC has that knob, but if they're slightly off, they could totally like blow the focus on it. And they could be using measuring, and they could be using cine tape. And if they need about this much because they keep picking up on the cine tape, you can, if they say, can you give me a couple of inches on that? You could do an approach and say, I can't, because they're really quiet. But then that first AC could always say, well, I need it. And then if they continue to blow the focus, they tell the DP. The DP then will, can't you just go up higher? They're going to basically call you out on it. And you're going to have to go higher. No, you don't want to have to go higher. You can, you can, if there is a big concern about that, you can say, would it be helpful? Can I come in at a little bit of a side angle? Maybe if I side addressed them a little bit, would that be helpful? I'm trying to dig in there as close as I can because there's a very quiet scene. If I can't, if instead of coming in straight from above, if I were to come in a little bit from the side, from the front, would that be helpful? Would that be enough? Sometimes they may say, I really need it. I just can't do this otherwise. That's when you have to suck it up and say, okay, I might need to give it to you. Now, your mixer may say, no, you can't do that. You have to push that frame because it's being close. Well, I hate to tell you this. Microphones are sensitive, yes. And yes, you want it to sound as present as possible. But it is not going to be a make it or break it thing if you are 2 inches over their head. Now, there are some people out there that watch this video that may say, actually, no, Alan, you're wrong on that. It is a big deal. I understand if there's noise, if there's a heavy noise floor or something like that, and it's a quiet scene, chances are you're boned anyway. Okay. And by going from here to here, the difference is you correct the behavior yourself versus making someone else have to do it, and you lose that rapport with them. Try to work it out around them if there is a big concern. If this is a very tight move, a very, very close thing, and you just have to, for whatever reason, give it to the AC, see if there's any solution that you can work out otherwise first. Can I come in at a little bit different angle? If I came in from this side a little bit, and I came in right here where you keep the front face of their front plane of their face completely open to camera, would that be helpful if you came in from more of a side angle? Maybe, maybe not. But the point is, you at least are trying to work with them, and you say, can this help? Is there I'm trying to tackle this too, man. I'm having a hard time. And do you really have to be, crushing the frame? You're right in my cine tape. I understand. It's such a quiet scene. If they're loud, then obviously you can give them more. You can give them a few inches or something like that. You don't have to crush the frame then. As a matter of fact, a lot of ACs, if the cine tape starts to bounce around, they're going to get nervous because it's going to start to throw off their measurements. And a lot of them become dependent on the cine tape because there is, you're using wide open or very open f-stops and it's, razor thin focus. And they may not have a light range or two or, focus assist on an Alexa or something like that's working to their advantage. They may have to just deal with whatever they have. And they may just be relying on that cine tape and not able to do it for whatever reason. Maybe their eyes are starting to fail in their old age. Maybe they're young and inexperienced and just cannot get the muscle, motion just right with their hand. Whatever the case may be, you're going to have to work with them. Because if you don't, then they're not going to work with you when you need a couple of, feet there on a hallway. And, the lights are right here. You have two cameras jammed next to each other. You have a couple of camera operators that are big freaking tall people, really high, really tall, and just standing out and over everybody. And then you have your focus pullers right next to them, and they're just sitting there on the monitors. They could remote those if you have the rapport with them and you say, guys, is there a way to get me in here too? I'd really like to try to boom this scene here. Can I maybe squeeze in here? And the first AC may say, yeah, I'll drop back, or I'll pull focus from monitor. Thank you. But if you don't give them a couple of inches when they need it on a really tough move, they'll remember it, and they won't necessarily work with you if you are not working with them. Now, I'm not trying to say that everything you do on set is for the purposes of trying not to piss people off, because, in all honesty, yes, that's part of it, but you do want to be cordial. These are the people you're going to be working with for a bigger part of the day than you see your own family. You are there on set for 12 plus hours a day, 5 days a week. And by the time you get off work, you have to shower and go to bed, and then you're sleeping. You're not with your family again. So you might see them only an hour or two during the week. And on the weekends, you try to make that count. Well, even 48 hours on the weekend with 10 hours during the week, that right there is 58 hours. You're on set for 60 hours. You're on set with these people. The least you can do is work with them well, and they'll hopefully work with you well. There have been days when I've been grouchy, and I woke up on the wrong side of the bed for whatever reason, and I'm just in a grumpy mood. But because I have rapport with people and I built that up over time, I may go to set and I'll be like this. People say, hey, good morning, Alan. How's it going? And I'll say, hey, dude, what's going on? Hey, you're just kind of down today. Yeah, man. Just tired. Sorry. It may be that case. It may be the kind of thing where people will look at you and say, man, you're looking rough today. Yes, I know. I was up all night for whatever reason, dealing with the baby, making YouTube videos. Whatever the case may be, you can tell them that that's, the reason or whatever. But you have rapport and you have it to spend. You gain that good credibility with them. They understand that it's a little one-off thing. The thing you do not want to do, though, is lose your cool. It does get stressful on set. It is crazy near the end of the day sometimes. And people will be at each other's throats. Sometimes they'll be yelling at each other, we gotta go. And you can't yell back, look, I need this for a second. I need to fix this live. You can't do that. You can, if you need to fix the live, you can say, working right now on it, sir, working right now, trying to get this done. Well, I need you to step off set. Yes, sir, I get it. I'll be done in 2 seconds too, and I'm out of here. Be respectful. If it's a big concern, especially if you're a sound department that never delays production and you have to fix that lob because it's a wide shot and you can't get a boom in there, you still have to do your job. And you say, oh, I get it. Believe me, and you're still fixing the lav. Maybe as a boom operator, I'll intercept if the utility's fixing a lav. And they'll say, hey, I just need you to step off set, because we have to go. And I'll say, oh, yes, sir, I totally get it. And if this were not important, I would not be pushing it. Believe me, though, it's very critical. Well, why? Well, because I can't get a boom over there, and this is a piece that you really need. And they're like, well, this is just, it's a quick pop or whatever else. I'm like, regardless. I mean, it's obviously important to roll on, so we need to make sure it sounds good. Don't know when it's going to be used. Usually I find that if I add sirs or ma'ams or something like that, yes, sir, I get it. I totally get it. And believe me, I do not want to be the source of your delay. I'll at least keep them talking and pull that off of the utility. So that way that, I'm the one on set with the rapport. Now, the utility probably is on set. They have a working relationship too. But if this set is mine because I'm running it for the sound department, the set's mine within the department. I'm not saying the first AD or whatever. I'm the person on set. I manage the set. If I call in the utility, then I need to have their back 100%, not throw them to the wolves. I need to address something. If the utility needs to come and make a little tweak or something like that, then I'll make sure that I watch them as they're doing it. And if the director is talking to the actors and it looks like the director is going to be done before the utility is going to be ready to go, I may say, just another second and we'll be done. And I'll address it at that point. If it's something I don't have to address because the utility is going to finish before the director is done directing talent, then I won't say a word. But, I'll only ask for it if it's necessary, right? That's part of this whole thing. But basically, in a nutshell, be polite. Be respectful of people's positions, represent your mixer and your department well, with the intentions of your mixer in the forefront of your mind at all times. Mixers are not always right, but they are always right because they're the mixer. It's their department. It's their rules. If you can't abide by those rules and their standards, they'll find someone that can. So you have to make your boss happy. You have to make your mixer happy. And they will, of course, have your back as well, or at least they should if they're a good mixer. They will have your back unless you totally are just whacked out. You said something really crazy or whatever else, and they say, no. And then they'll come to set. Or they feel a need to address something because it's getting a little out of hand that day, and they might sense that you're getting pushed around a little too much. You will be good cop. They will be bad cop. Let them be bad cop. That's fine. They are not the ones that have to live with the consequences of something on set. Now, if they come to set and they're annoyed with something or aggressive or whatever else, you can't say, dude, he is just in a bad mood today. You can say, I understand the heat. I mean, he's got a little heated up there because it's important. It is actually important. I mean, it may not seem it, but it is. And they may say, do you really hear that? Is it really that big of a deal? Yes, sir, it is. Well, can you get better microphones? Actually, these microphones are extremely sensitive. That's the problem. It's sensitive. That's why we picked up that noise. Well, can you use less sensitive microphones or more directional microphones or something like that? It's not the right tool for the job, sir. Or I've even at some point I said, hey, can I tell you which lens to use? It depends on the person. Sometimes if I'm joking around with them, I say, hey, yeah, you got one of them ultra primes? You can lose that zoom and put on an ultra prime, let's say a good old nice 100. I've done that before, but that's joking around with someone. A lot of the times, they'll be frustrated in the moment or whatever else, but I won't want to push them. But there have been people I've joked back with. Anyway, I'm going really long in this video. It looks like almost like 45 minutes or something like that, even more. But that's my point here. My point basically is be respectful, represent well. Just remember, represent well. And that right there is an excellent piece of sound advice. Have a question you'd like answered or want to add something? Be sure to write it in the comment section down below. You can also make a suggestion for future topics of discussion. Again, comment section down below, or you can email me at soundspeeds@yahoo.com. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on future sound advice.